For critical analysis and engagement with the social to be effective in its account, it must trace the network. The active network traces strings of actions incorporating intermediaries. Agents are considered as transportation more other transformative. This renders the social visible, making tangible details essential to the constituent parts of society, i.e. government and political fault. The accounts treat the constituents of the social as a backdrop of de facto authority. The only transport assemblages of power through intermediaries without accessing their epistemological nature. Littoral 5. A good account is a string of actions in where each participant is a full mediator preposition where all actors do something instead of transporting effects without transforming. Each point may become the origin of new translation as soon as we are as mediators there during the movement of the social visible. This social may become a circulating entity no longer composed of stale assemblage that was passed earlier as be part of society. In a bad account, only a handful of actors will be designated. The cost of all others, nothing is translated from one the other since the actions simply carry through them. There are just repeat cliches of what has been assembled before the social passes. Watered down translations and mere displacements without transformation and simply transports causality through intermediaries. Social agents might be invoked, but since the principle there simply remains unknown and the cost of expansion is not been paid as if nothing was happening. Thus, the role about is a voter the bidder who best implements network. The network is a concept of the retools. The topic as a perspective grid ready actors, mediatorship, and the majoritarian assertion of intermediate assemblage. Tour 2. Network is a concept of tool to help describe something that has the same relationship with the topic at hand lies, but allow one to project a three-dimensional object onto a flat land and they are not is to be painted only what allows the painter to give the impression of depth before the erase. The network is not what it represented, but what ready to really of actors and mediators. The consequences that you can provide an actor network account of legislation. The network is a point-to-point connection establishing what is physically traceable and can record it empirically, such as connection leads empty what is most not a connected network is made not made of words but a trace level behind some moving agent. An actor network can be traced with the passive new other vehicle or circulating entity. The more connected, the more individuals one was in order to trace an actor network. You have to add to the many traces left behind the social fluid through which the traces are rendered again. Present provided something happens in an actor network. The account relative proportion of mediators to intermediaries is increased. The app method outweighs all derivative interrogations of political other methods fill in the recognized metaphorical power, but they don't actually interrogate how the power structures are created and how they function empirically and what their methods by which we can turn them down discussions within a frame that identifies power imperatives in political realm for auxiliary goods assumes a degree of control of the government that is insufficient to demonstrate effective pedagogy and be traces of whiteness or rendered irrefutable adverse accounting. The political structure that has been constructed and solidified by solidity. True reorientation requires the empiricization of whiteness being through the network of trying a point-to-point connection rendering whiteness inescapable of escape from interrogation. The thesis of the affirmative is that power structures maintain themselves as the far-reaching ephemeral structures as an affirmation of the right to know as an implementation of a network as the social is informed to the action political that they sustain power. Structure can be described as acting network solidifies in their sources in empirical understanding. Who is it that rigs dominations, what money is funneled in campaigns? These understanding breakdown expands the power structures into their constituent and weaker connections that can be deconstructed like the overall indomitable social force. Load to 3. If you have to fight against a force that is invisible and total, you will be defeated. It's only the forces that are made in smaller ties tested one by one. You might have a chance to modify as a given state of affairs. The danger of critical sociology that never fails to explain it always runs the danger of becoming empirically empty. To reclaim an empirical class, it travels where the negotiations go rather than stopping short of the formal social. The idea is not to strive for a purely objective science of the social nor be the social bogged down with dirty tricks of politics forever politicizing science amounts to depriving the exploited. The only chance they have to reach interesting balance by appealing to objectivity and rationality. If there's no way to interact into compose social forces, then there's not much that can be done to exist behind all various issues. There exists no version present. The same system has always struck me as extreme max again, but perverted way to look for assertive well. And during the bittersweet feeling of superior political correctness, action is impossible only in territory that is open up, flattened down, and cut down to a place where foreign structures and globalization totality circulate inside tiny conduits, and where for each of their applications they need to rely on masses of hidden potentialities. One's act to make a difference, only a world made a difference. Critical proximity, not critical distance, is what we should aim for. Thus, you deconstruct social forces into dominated society and reinscribe otherness of certain bodies. We must engage the app method of network inspection, decomposition through drawing of connections of social forces, confining ephemeral structures to the smaller constituent connections of force that is necessary for action. The political operates in circular fashion to produce new revolutionary ideas. Political take off and create transformative legislation. Political operates properly when ideas are constantly revolutionized, adapting social change over the political is hijacked from a cycle of new ideas and drawn off a tangent held place with dominant power structure and brought to a halt by systematic oppression. The political axis that ceases to allow a radical change. The change of whiteness has built itself in the ultimate political fortress. Whiteness has hijacked the political, charting itself in the connections with it. Its own powerhouse that seems facially indomitable. Only the affirmative method of wrenching the political baton by demystifying the tightly knitted power relations can solve methods that attempt to dissociate or destroy the political or just reformulations of tangential. Those are 13. Political beings are always accused of lying. They truly begin to lie politically if they go off on a tangent by beginning to proffer straight talk, wanting to be faithfully represented or obeyed. The small gap between the temptation to go straight and earning obligation to turn away to ensure the passive political baton will ever come back if we take it upon ourselves to interrupt or extend it straight ahead. We below it all up is admirable, preparing yourself to redesign it and totally prove that you weren't lying when you said that use the fine word revolution has no political meaning. If you're not already preparing yourself to rouse new opposition, new passions to prove that one is not lying is given by what follows the curve of the richer renewal and extension all along the chain with the lack of single one would suffice would make it collapse. Politicians cycle tangential power by passing the political baton partisan candidates. These candidates use ties of power to guarantee their position, office, representation, privacy, misunderstand how the balance of power functions, the lack of account for the capability of those in power from forms of bond of power to shut out the challenges to legitimacy empirically proven and necessitates the abstract or weight. You cannot evaluate privacy unless you account for the relative power of disclosed information to you and you disclose any of the power balance of power is maintained, but this philosophically you and I have different parallels to begin with. Divulging your identity to police officer will give them enormous power over you. He or she can search police databases, create a police record, and attach your name or put you on a secret terrorist watch list, asking you to see the officer's ID, and in return gives you no comparable power. Your existing power is the exponent of the equation that determines the value. Do you have more information? The more power you have, the more additional power you derive from a new data. All aspects of the government work. That's when the relative power between the governors and governors remains small. Forced openness in government reduces relative power differential. Eric Crespo arrested in 2005 claimed that while being interrogated, Detective Christopher Parano tried to talk him out of getting a new lawyer and told him that he had to sign a confession. Parano denied that he was ever questioned by Crespo, but Crespo surreptitiously recorded the questioning, though they found throughout his transcript in the evidence prosecution offered Crespo about a deal with Parano and not charged of perjury, thus affirm other view. First, the app doesn't take a stance on the coherency of theory, but a theory is better. I'll give access to A at one AR theory because one otherwise negatively into the users. There be no way to check back and choose how to link every reason one AR theory is bad. It's a reason to hard to respond. Hard to respond to in general should be aired against, not rejected, so they have to wait. See this against the actual shell and B as drop the debater because one of the two layers have as long as two machines they build a class a single layer where you can make both subs into N theory 2. Then I can debate why if I only get to drop the arguments and then I get an insane turnaround time on whatever I undercover. C afflex I waste 161% time as an anti affirmative 2 7 4 6 3 times Q3. Afflex is an offense twice with the negatives only has to extend it once more negatives adapted to the one AC stride. The AC doesn't know what slew off the negative reading D2 no 2 to no new to and framing one destroys the ability to frame the round key to recourse because the negative uplaying the one and on check makes it 4 minute 1 hour impossible because either I have found the every layer had to make a weaker uplaying that is the top of the 6 minute 202 response. You can't make new 2 A responses because there's no 3 and so you shouldn't be able to pin the after defense. Second, fiat is not affirmative or negative. The negative represents a counterplan they must have proven to existence. They counterplan plans. Fiat is the assumption that the resolution being limited to questions whether or not the presence is pointed out. The FAC for the purpose of discussion. Fiat is not affirmative. Fiat is not a reciprocal privilege. Negative deserves regards to equality and equity. And here's the way both teams based on merits. Resolution continues into existence. Resolution nothing more.
Cool. You have your cross-checks?
1 second, let me get a drink. Yep.
Okay, cool. What is a network?
Alright, so the network is not, there's some clarifying things about the network, but it's basically a conceptual methodology that we use to delineate and put into like empirical, understandable like language what relations or like conduits of power that exist in political structures that are generally ephemeral or hold power through connections that are not otherwise
what is
knowable.
a connection?
So connection can be like a variety of things, but basically like I'll give you like an example that's relatively simple. Think of like a super PAC giving a ton of money to a candidate. That super PAC and that candidate, they are two individual entities, one of which is providing money to one of the other entities to help them retain power in office by providing them money for that means. Those two individual entities.
The AF?
What? The AF is not an implemented policy.
Will you agree that the AF has consequences and you defend those?
The AF does have consequential impacts, yes.
Okay.
I'm not going for like no consequences, and thus all your offense doesn't matter.
Okay, cool. The role of the ballot, will you defend the role of the ballot to determine whether or not the AF is a good idea?
No, I haven't rolled out in the AF.
Okay, fine.
You can,
Why
you
don't
can
I
like
get
make
2 in
arguments
framing?
why my roll of ballot's bad.
Why don't I get 2 in framing?
There are 2 arguments. The first one is just that it means that I can't actually frame the round, and that capability to frame the round is necessary for recourse against the capability of the negative to like uplayer a ton in the one end, which means that the 1AR is forced to either make a weaker uplayering because you have 6 minutes.
Okay, what is a faulty account?
What?
What is a faulty account?
Anything that's not using the actor network theory.
How do I know when something's faulty?
If it doesn't use the actor network theory.
What is the actor network theory?
That's what the app is talking about.
What does that look like?
It looks like what I described just a second ago when I talked about being able to empirically
What does it
describe
mean
the
to use
relationship
the actor
between-
network theory?
It means to identify, delineate the empirical existence of different bodies and individual entities that are capable of creating cycles of power between each other and thus between larger
Who can create
overall
cycles of
systems.
power?
Well, as of right now, per the app, I explained that currently we are in what is called a tangent by the affirmative, which is that normally the political operates by like cycling ideas. We get new ideas that adapt to the like social.
How's your AF not an idea?
What?
How's your AF not an idea?
That's not what my answer is leading to, but I mean yes, the F does involve the conveyance of
Then
ideas.
why
to
is it not
objectives.
another cycling of power structures?
Yeah, that's a pretty obvious misunderstanding of what I'm getting at. Do you want me to like continue to explain?
If it's a misunderstanding, tell me why it's a
Yeah,
misunderstanding.
I was gonna, if I can continue to explain what I was already explaining.
Connell,
then it
can
will
you answer
stop
my
me
question?
misunderstanding.
Why is the
Okay,
AF not a cycling
I'm going
of
to
power
continue to explain.
relations?
The AF, the political, is what cycles ideas through legislation to revolutionize what occurs in the social that the political controls. If we do not, if we bring the political off onto a tangent by maintaining one set of ideas for an extended period of time and not allowing the political baton to be passed on, then that means that there are no new ideas and the political does not operate properly. The passing of the baton is what is problematic, i.e. bringing it off into a tangent.
Cool, start. Star Pro 309 left.
What was that?
309 left.
309. That's good.
It's 5 then case starting on the. I'll wait for Tom to grab a seat.
Okay.
It's 5 then case starting on the under view then top down. Ducks in.
Alright, I'm ready.
Give me a moment.
Yeah.
I need to label these floors. There's a bunch of stuff. Farmville.
State.
What?
State.
As in, yeah, 50 states stuff. 50 states.
Util.
Wait, another show?
Yeah.
Okay. Show theory.
Starting on the under view.
Okie dokie.
Is everybody ready?
No, I'm just looking, sorry, I'm just copying into it.
There's 2.
Yeah.
Everybody good?
I'm copying the second one.
Hertzig? Nirmal? Tom? Cool. Oh, and it's early in the morning. Please let me know if I need to be clear. Interpretation, the atmosphere that after enforcing the accuracy violation due to prefer state regard links to this as counterpoints and anyone wants to take as key certain this as like politics only linked to certain accuracy supercharge on this topic they can defend vague general principle accuracy dealing negative offense implication is taken with the United States federal government is the accurate United States if they contest the link to this and proves the abuse this becomes dropped of and Conno defends things like consequences of the affirmative which means he can't no link from the dissent. Next up. Farm bill passes now the upcoming Wayne session top. Priority Republican to win to pass. Current ST 12. Prospects of improved to pass by partisan farm bill. End of year Democrats secure the House. Republicans will be better pass the compromise in the upcoming Wayne session rather starting over in a Dem controlled House. The only thing between now and the end of the year is getting the farm bill done. Farmers need certainty Dem take over change dynamics for predictions this week Purdue and common conversation with optimists for getting remaining differences resolved and tax disclosure bills are heavily politicized cause infighting stall legislation. Nicodemus 215 the bill would require the country to release federal income tax returns SB 362 which required in excluding the legislation issue reaction to Trump bill sponsored our part the surprise party this is the kind of thing that people turn to partisan issue colleagues would waste time and energy play politics over setting aside differences and solving real issues and taxes are political power relations. There are a question of relations between candidates and the political sphere. Also get different potential political conflicts of interest and behavior. No link argument for reviews on expected draft debate so global food security flowers. For 4. The Farm Bill has profound consequences for global food security. Funds determine essential related crop disease, animal health resource management, food security, nutrition, and other areas critical food system. Farm Bill department source of funding for agricultural science use has been leader ag innovations for the rest of the world and poor countries have farmers do more with less. The U.S. safeguards ag against future special boasting resistant productivity around the world, North Dakota world, and stable U.S. agriculture to prevent great power wars against multiple hotspots. Castle 17. ISIS around Russia and China spreading out of control reliable food supplies until prices reduce stable countries rising income reducing demand for American farmers emerging markets purchase 20% use agriculture disease deteriorating to shooting wars. Next up. Counterpoint tax to 50 states in the United States, the 50 states on relevant authorities ought to value the public's right to know presidential candidate tax returns, both the right to privacy, presidential candidates for public office, do the after all their instances states can do no constitutional barriers link 1723 states introduce will require presidential candidates to reduce ruling tax returns or comparable information in order to be listed on the ballot as a candidate for president. State ballot action requirements could fill this critical gap in the next election. States have a stronger argument that jail disclosure requirements for constitutional critical line between laws exclude individuals based on personal characteristics. Laws that ask candidates to do something in order to gain ballot access. Tax return requirement does not exclude individual running for president. State law could include civil penalties, addition to ballot restrictions to fall back, enforcement mechanisms remain, and 1 year theory skewed towards the FA point. The 2 normal cover something to overcover theory. They get the platform to space intervention for 3 minutes. 2 year B point the response to my counter interpretation will be new means that 1 year theory necessitates intervention. A implications. A point dropping the argument minimize the chance around is not unfair. B point is intervention is going to happen on theory to means that the judges should intervene in a way to decrease the assigning nature of LD theory. Next up. The standard is maximizing expected well-being. Prefer 1 point is accurate specificity. 8 point accuracy. Every policy benefits no harm. So ultimately this action interaction. B point is no mission. Distinction choosing makes this active. So people cite quotes not tagging presented with the efficacy situation do action. Either mission. C point is no intent or intent distinction. When you if we foresee consequence it becomes harder deliberation we intend it to happen, which makes intrinsic to action. 2 point is reductionism. There's no continuous identity. We can split the brain for 2 separate periods of consciousness market. 84 certain confounders that 2 separate periods of consciousness that causes does present question 2 of the business which you'll receive 2 different answers. There this means util is the only coherent moral theory since there is not a continuous dispersion, distribution of goods among people's role, maximize benefits among people. Third is substitutability, only consequential, expose necessary enables and Armstrong. 9, 2 more reasons, consequential reasons, consequential more reasons, non-consequential reasons, depends on property act, have is by promise to move the those are more reasons, but consequent promise by cannot move the starting not follow breaking the start more theory connects with substituting comes properties for more reasons. 4 is parameters for him to be defines also means the top quality should be theoretically different interpretation. 8 point ground every impact functions under use of other ethics photo one side exclusively kills earnings between arguments and deep topical most articles are written to the one you should cross for policy makers journal public constantly not filming education difference education literature is where you research determines how to get into around 5 point is use epistemic modesty value frame debate that means compare the probability frame times magnitude impact under frame prefer 8 point subtent which maximize probability using numbers more values debating frame facts of mitigation impact strength of mitigation contingency punish spot distance and arguments going on for frame means the ideal balance between topic and ability. Some most important talk about contentional offense. Point is real world people change their mind about creating information and avoid those harms. Next up. Interpretation debaters must explore constructive positions that open source the highlighting on 2018-19 NDC wiki after run in which they read the violation treat on proves that open source he doesn't. This interpretation is supercharged by the fact that Colin read this app before today, didn't disclose it until this morning. The 1119 timestamp of the wiki appears 8 point is debate resource and actually say people steal cards that good is only with open thing to assumes like Nelson underapproach programs into Nucci 05 open source and properly better share the with limited projection participation open source make the only restructure rule based answer to resource and equity avails at the level enforcement open source reduce contributors its own during the non-security open system would fundamentally change evidence economy target name define is evidence ethics open source is only verified that cards are miscalled otherwise you could hire back and unethically that's a voting issue maintaining as well as practically being the academics we should be able to verify you didn't cheat points definitely causing first as we more numerous research preventions and opponents evidence random faster release a higher quality evidence comparison always because think interviews not new best quality responses come from answers showcase voter fairness because debates need individual strategy education my schools debate use computer interpretation the question about arbitrary judge invention also have to be interpretation just like you related to separate interpretations under offense you can drop the debater because the offense has some rebuttal great advantage with humans to be weighing arguments secure responsible so we need to refer to these norms if one are illogical you should have won for being here to limit such a gauge substance before respect to your not disclosing value, never disclosing your obviously have files unless you point is forced to put your true everything. Collapse and misconstrued true and check out showing fact key points with an education collective substance after resolving theory and you can't weigh the case 8 point. If I'm in your precludes of indication the one is you're obviously doing the case means you can't cross by case impacts or arguments other people index your ability read them and cut the B point case under. As an overview to the underview, you should reject all their spikes. 8 point is caution, summarize them to use all their spikes to take out basketballs and 1 C, which means we never get RIO, we never get things like topical education, which always goes doing 2 months of each topic for us. 4 years to be things like theory. B point is inclusion, they'll use a bunch of blippy arguments to take out basketball to 1 C, which not everybody able to catch, which is inherently able to now their side bias argument under 1 year theory. 8 point is judge psychology. Judges already know about side bias means inherently biased towards the affirmative. B point is there no p value if you reject it. C point is that doesn't count for good debaters picking the same side over and over. D point is not this topic doesn't matter their time to the argument. 8 point is we both have 13 minutes, there's no time to. B point is he has a sound for advantage on 1 year theory, which Ronald's probably going to do because my auntie was so long and he doesn't know how to answer substance. Now, their extension argument, no, they have to 2 AR cops to solve their office because they have 2 AR spend the same change their advantage. They see the negatives reactive. No, the F has infinite prep and they know they're reading this affirmative before the round. They see no 2 enough framing. No, you should grant me contestation based on specificity, especially because they have 10 minutes to do things like theory framing before I do. They have the entire after 1 year. They say rush process, but no, you can obviously answer things like 2 enough framing the 2 AR. That's how weighing works. Your plans evidence. 1 point is calm. Go back to the 90s. Nobody doesn't read counterplans anymore. 2 point is rush process. You can read fiat advocacy. 2 is not my fault. You don't do topical prep. 3 point is road education. No policymakers pass things like counterpoint plans all the time. You should probably discuss those in debates since it's relevant to the way that things are implemented. 4 point is topical education. Obviously, your recycled framework only has 1 topical card, which probably because your framework doesn't lead to any topical education. 5 point is negative flexibility of 1 negating is harder, which means you should probably err negative. 6 point is norming people. More and more people reading more and more people are reading large strategies, means you should probably err on that side. The framework, there's no way to know who has what kind of relations. You have to cycle ideas with the political means they link to their own framework. Also, hijack actor networking requires a framework specific to the actors. That's actor specificity on YouTube. Not their entire firm does not need connections are always going to exist. Some are invisible. Things like black money proof no solvency reading. The app has already done that. The offense 1 point is your evidence has key power relations at minimum. We talk about police and doctors, not candidates. Means you have no offense under advocacy, but negative presumption. 2 point is candidates are way people force openness. Is about here's the line from their evidence force openness and way people increase the relative power. That's generally the implication that candidates are way people trying to be better and govern in countries like India. 3 point is candidates will always be in a position of power since they pass policies that affect other people's lives. 4 point is turn the people have more power than candidates. They control whether candidates elect not candidates rules to the will of the people to win re-election.
Alright, I didn't read the section labeled framework, and I didn't read the 5 point on the offense at all. The rest of them, I didn't read it word for word, but like decent arguments still there.
Hold on. Is there anything you got anywhere else?
Oh, I marked a card or 2 on Farm Bill, I think.
Alright, where's that?
Kornowski was not marked. Nicodemus was not. Flowers was marked at productivity around the world.
Where is that? Oh gosh, it's
That's ironic.
dude, my formatting is actually so good. Okay, can you just do it for me? I can't find it.
pretty sure that's the only thing I marked. Oh, I cut this B payment. Did you get that? Oh, damn, let me show you.
Dude, do you not see these flows?
Yeah, I think that was all of it. Just that card and the B point.
Okay. Alright. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, starting now. So what's the implication of the first off?
The implication is that your actor for the resolution is now the United States federal government.
Why?
Because that's the implication of the A-Spec show.
No, I'm just confused. Why is that like the correct like actor that we should just default to?
Well, I just said it's good for stable ground because I can read things like politics and states.
Okay, so that's it? Alright, cool. And you say prefer stable ground, losing suggested campaign and some of the goods.
Or at the very least, like, you don't have to defend the USFG, but you should defend the USFG as the actor within the United States along with all the democracies.
Hold on, I need to write something down.
Do you have questions?
Hold on, I need to write something down in response to that question. It's pretty important.
Okay.
Okay. So what's this farm bill just said? Like, why is it the case that the AF makes it so that we don't get this farm bill?
Yeah, it leads to heavily politicized legislation, which leads to lots of bickering. It'll delay it throughout the lame duck session, which means the farm bill won't be passed.
Wait, so
That'll
the
be really sad because
Nicodemus,
people will starve and
the Nicodemus evidence is talking about New Hampshire shooting down a presidential tax return bill. Why does that have anything to do with what the AF does?
Yeah, it also talks about how the tax return bill was heavily politicized because it was issued in reaction to Trump, which means any kind of policy about Trump's tax returns would also be heavily
So wait, you
politicized.
say the AF has to defend the USFG. You never say the AF has to defend that it's a tax return bill for
You defend the
Trump.
whole resolution. Tax returns are personal information. or private
Okay,
information.
so where's that like definition of what includes personal information?
Connell, it is obviously part
Seems
of
like pretty
private
important that
information.
these
Connell,
two
so many
answers are-
people for a tax
Alright.
returns app, it's just unreasonable to say
I
there's
mean,
no link.
I am not, so I just feel like this doesn't have a link, so I'll
It's
just make the
within the
argument.
resolution.
I'll just make the argument. You say taxes are political power relations. Okay, so the politicization of it is what makes it so that the Farm Bill doesn't pass?
What do you mean?
It's fine, I'll just talk about it as well. Alright, let's talk about the util stuff. What util warrant outweighs the other ones? Like, what's the most important util warrant?
Theory first,
Alright, what after that?
substance.
No, like which one of the substantive arguments?
I don't
Because
think
I
it
heard a
stands on
weighing
which one
argument.
comes
I heard a
first.
weighing argument on the app about actor specificity. Does that one come first?
No, I just made multiple arguments. I can do wing in the 2 and that's how debate works, Connell.
Alright, well, that depends on if you win weighing, getting moving to and framing issues. You say no continuous identity. It's fine. Generics. Disclosure. Before the round, you just told me that I should just disclose as I've done previously. Why is that? Why?
Because that's the norm that you have set. and
Why
followed.
didn't you just like tell me to? I literally went up to you and asked, what disclosure in terms do you want me to meet? And you just said, do what you have already done.
Yeah, I
Why-
told you to follow whatever you thought was good.
You told me to do what I had previously done.
I told you.
Why
do
is that
whatever
not
you want.
terminal D for the shell? Alright, I'll just like make the argument. It's pretty absurd. Hashtag baiting disclosure in 2018. and 7 seconds prep remaining. Alright, so the order is going to be on his first shell, then on Farm Bill, then on 50, I think it's just order of the offs. First shell, Farm Bill, 50 states. Actually, I'm not talking about Utah. And then the second shell, then the Littoral.
Wait, so
Shell,
where are you
you're obviously
starting?
in order without Utah.
Okay, so the offs first.
And then the show.
Yep.
Wait,
Is
where's
there-
that? Where's the app?
At the end, like after all the offs that I'm going through. And on the F, I'll be starting just like essentially top down.
Is there a doc?
Nope.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm starting on the first shot. Starting.
Now cross-apply the Toro 5 theories that she'll kind of drive from the transportational perspective of any given round. Your theoretical objection uses a vehicle to obtain a ballot without actually concerning any continuous change in the form of debated social and other rounds. You may have a theoretical claim in water and someone should lose respecting something, and then in the very next claim the opposite. Furthermore, back to interpretations I claim to set norms do not become structural facets of other round demonstrates the farcical nature of interpretations. Also, Toro 13 theory attempts to bring debate onto a tangent. Debate is political transformative space, and the nature of debate arguments is constantly cycling to adapt to his part of practice. Early debates were only exclusively about justice morality. All is now traditional debate, but maintains the debate's educational feature must allow for the shifts that already occurred to debate's adaptability. Denying that we should have rounds critical issues or rejection of debates of capability to function as best as means your interpretation is a direction for futures that the debate practicing without really a reason to drop the abstract, which means that your argument doesn't matter. Now go on to the
Next off case, that was Farm Bill.
There's no link to the affirmative. The affirmative never explicitly defends taxes. It never gives a definition as to why it's actually something that's in any part of the resolution. He says that taxes are something that's personal, but even not provided that definition. There's no reasons why that's the case by these there are already tax disclosure bills that are not necessarily sufficient, and also there's no reason as why there's definitely not a good enough link between there being called politicized issue, meaning that there's no other capability for the Farm Bill to pass. You just say that it's at the top of the docket, and therefore politicization over tax disclosure would be heavily politicized. We don't give it a link between heavy politicization and the lack of the Farm Bill being at the top of the docket. Also, the card for the Farm Bill is super. It's super old in comparison. It's
Oh, sorry, no, that was the other this said you didn't read that card, but that's fine. There's no link. Also, I don't defend implementation. Your interpretation about the actor doesn't actually matter for implementation, so that's on states.
On states, his interpretation saying that we have to look to the actor after the USFG doesn't actually mean that the counter plan actually has any competition, because the affirmative defending that certain actor does not mean the affirmative defends the implementation of a policy option in context of that actor, which means that there's no reason why the counter plan is actually inconsistent with the affirmative, because we can forward the idea that the 50 states would be doing that would be a good idea, in addition to forwarding the idea that the United States federal government doing it would be a good idea as well. There's no reason why we cannot advocate for both of those things at the same time. Means that there's no actual competition on the counter plan.
Now, on the tip-off.
I asked you outside around what disclosure interpretation you wanted me to. You said that I should just continue to disclose as I have done. That would be sufficient. There's literally no norm setting for this interpretation. It's a terrible norm to just trick people into being capable of reading disclosure theory. You literally told you that you probably wanted to ask for open source, and you said no because you wanted to be able to read this fuzzy disclosure interpretation. You're clearly not demonstrating any sort of norming. I asked you explicitly if you wanted me to defend certain interpretations. You saying that you did not say I should do what I wanted to do. No, you said that you should just do what I should just do what I have done in the past, which means that there's no actual beast on the shell. Also, all the arguments as to why theory is problematic that I've ever made on the first interpretation apply here too.
Now go on to the F.
On the affirmative, they have conceded way too much of the affirmative framework. Their analysis in the affirmative framework misunderstand. They say that the evidence says I'll talk about the offense arguments later, but the framework is talking about how there are power relations within the political that are necessarily entirely ephemeral unless we engage in the affirmative method of network. We cannot identify what the power relations are within the political unless we have some sort of capability to cut and lay out those power relations into their individual constituent cycles of power in order to trace the actor network to identify that we must be capable of giving these he has conceded low toward 3 evidence, which says that a starting point of society is an ever-present de facto engagement is and leaves no room for change. He's talking about policy making is never consistent with the affirmative method. They've conceded the act method outweighs other interrogations of political. Other methods fail because they recognize metaphorical power to not interrogate how they are created, which means that we don't have access to the political or understandings of implementing policy until we get engaged in the affirmative opening up of the political structures. There's no way you can fiat the alternative, fiat the counterplan without accessing the affirmative first because we know engaging the forces of the political. Now in his analytics, he said the evidence says we should keep power and balance as the minimum. Both talks about peace and doctors. No, the affirmative is not specific to candidates. It's a general statement of defense of opening up the political as a means of network. And also the candidates are lay people. The openness is bad. No, this is talking about lay people. We're saying you have to open up the political. That's the problem in the affirmative. That's exactly what we're talking about. Then he says non-unique candidates will always be in a position of power. That doesn't matter. We are delineating a power. It doesn't matter if they are in the position of power still.
309 or 7? 309, yeah, start from US. Okay, can you list the individual claims you made as to why they have to accept it? Wait, actually, never mind.
There were just two.
It was just the norm was not structural, and then
the first
debate
Latour 05
political?
and Latour 13. The Latour 5 argument is that theory is transportational. It doesn't have any actual benefit to the debate round because it's just your method of getting a ballot in a cheap way without actually having any continuous change in debate generally. So making the theoretical claim in this round, you could have just made the opposite one in any other round. It's not actually some sort of thing that you were claiming is a good thing about the social. And then also interpretations do not set norms. They just claim to. They just talk about individual rounds, which demonstrates that they're farcical. And Latour 13 is talking about how you bring debate onto a tangent because debate is transformative and adapts to the practicum that currently exists. So,
okay, cool. Here's your protocol. Menu cards. It'll be the app offense, A spec where he says theory is incoherent, then open source.
gross.
When are you good?
One, so app offense, theory 2, and that's it?
Hmm?
Alright, sounds good.
He said there's not a document.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody good?
Yeah.
One point is that the economist said that the app is not specific to candidates, it's a general statement which proves the affirmative is extra topical, that's a voting issue for negative preference. There's no way to preference against every single affirmative, make him answer this in the 2 if he drops it. That's a reason why you should vote affirmative, because there's no way for the negative research to engage with every single affirmative. Now, you've conceded the 4th turn on your offense. I'll concede that the app framework is true, but you've lost this debate already on substance, because there's a turn here. Even if they win theories incoherent, you still have to negate on substance, which means insofar as theories a no risk issue for me, you can vote on either of those layers. The turn that says that people control candidates' re-election. That was the 4th argument of the document, which means that Connor probably shouldn't be able to respond to the turn that says that people will always have more power than candidates because they control whether the candidate is elected or not, which flips power relations against the political, because the people are the ones controlling the way the power relations work against the political, and the candidate has to listen to the will of the people in order to win re-election, which means that people inherently control the political, and the policies that are passed within the political, which means that power relations have already flipped the other way. Empirical evidence with people like Trump and Ocasio-Cortez from New York, they are non-partisan, or like they're not the usual partisan candidates who are breaking out of the usual norms and elected by the people, which proves that we can break out of things like power relations, and have already done so, which is the reason why you should negate and vote negative presumption aspect theory. Whoops, Connell's conceded that he doesn't get to weigh the case, which is a reason why none of his arguments is why theory is incoherent, or a reason why you can say, oh, theory is incoherent. This was the very last argument on the open source shells. It says that if I win, but he precludes me substantive engagement in the one, he's obviously going to win the case, which means he can't cross-apply those case impacts arguments to other pages and indict your ability to read them in the first place. Even then, I'll line by them. You say, off your, you look towards 13, just 1 point is no, you want the ballot, which means that it's also transportational for you, which means that's considered argument. 2 point is that you also consider that your app links on the framework, because that is a cycle of ideas within the political debate. You said debate was not a political, but then you said it in cross, but you said it in the 1 year, which means that you still link to your own affirmative. The 3rd point is obviously I don't read disclosure the other way. You can see all the disclosure interpretations on my wiki. I say that people should disclose. Now, your other arguments, which are 15 argument, 1 point is that this still, the argument here is that it still shifts their norms. It'll be the 2nd time that I beat Valley and must open source, which means you're probably going to start open sourcing empirically proven in the past when Valley lost to disclosure so many times that they started disclosing. If they lose to open source enough number of times, they'll start open sourcing too, which means you should probably vote them down because it's a good norm, open source. Here's the thesis of interpretation. Debaters must disclose constructive positions on open source with highlighting on the 2019 NDAC LD Wiki after the round in which they read them. There's 2 standards, or I'll go for all the standards. They're all considered. I have plenty of time. The ancient issue of 5 evidence says a debate resource and actually do say people steal cards, but that's good. Our impact on all their stealing cards argument, which and this argument outweighs our resource and equities argument. Outweighs 8 point is the impact not fairness, education, and morality. People can't participate in the first way. 2 point is the link turns all their offense and outweighs on duration. If people get good at debate, there will be more good debates, increasing educational value of the activity. Long term, more people get access to better arguments and see how strategies fit together. This also link turns their firmness because we'll be able to learn more about power relations and learn how we can control them, which means that open source controls internally to any kind of solvency. Now, the next argument is the evidence ethics argument, and knowing how cards are highlighted in practice isn't necessarily to being able to engage with the affirmative, otherwise they could have done something unethical, and there's no way to capture ground because the round is super short, only 45 minutes, and I'm constantly debating, trying to think of arguments. Evidence ethic always 8 point is road significance. People get expelled from school all the time for tiny academic ethics violations, but to teach good norms. Now, B point is link turns your offense, and we have to open source and incentivize better card cutting and research because it's harder to get with having bad cards. C point is distortion, super immoral, whereas lack of fairness education, there's pragmatic instrumental deficits, which means insofar as considered an independent voter. That's a reason why none of his offense matters, especially because he doesn't have a counter-interpretation or any interest in interpretation. Now, the last argument is the depth of clash argument. This also only turns all their arguments about engaging with the political, because in order to engage with the political, i.e. control how the debate space works, you need to be able to do a thing. Theory allows us to do that. It allows us to set the norms of the debate space, which means that reading theory in and of itself is something performative that allows us to change the way that the political functions. The depth of clash argument always link turns all your other standards based unique education value comes ability rigorously test and different ways. Absent clash debate turns into monologue because you never actually learn how to apply things like changing power relations. 3 point is reversibility of these certain impacts can be resolved through adverse research. Caution will occur in round. And don't think about debate this round, this topic, this season. Think about the long-term debate has gotten deeper because it's more transparent, which means there's more constructive dialogue in round. I've won the interpretation now. He's conceded competing interprets drop the beta fairness education of voters and no RVI, which means theory is a no risk issue. If I've won a risk of offense, you should vote negative, especially because he's conceded that negating is harder, judge psychology, and because they have the first last for me that they said the direct debate have to err to in the genius of mind. Also, judges are inherently biased towards the affirmative because they already know the side by side statistic 2 implication 8 point. You should hear heavily negative on risk of offense because there's no counter interpretation. B point, you should validate the theory debate after 2 hours to deter whipping negative air collapse. Now, good job, Connell. You caught that one. Now, the rest of his arguments, you say that they have no counter interpretation, means you should auto negate a risk of offense. Now, his only argument is that he asked me, but no. 1 point is that I shouldn't have to ask when they read their evidence in the public domain and should be treated as such. 2 point is that they haven't considered the hundreds of cases of follow debate but don't know them well enough to ask for their size. They should always let people know to give others the opportunity. As for example, younger students are scared to message older debaters for sites, which means that they open sourcing allows them to download the documents and look at how debaters formulate their strategy. 3 this barely solves any of our impact. Private transfer between two debaters is hardly an open community, which means there's so no depth of cluster evidence. Ethics 4 is that they're imposing an unreasonable burden. I shouldn't have to email every decent person I expect to debate. I spend the time updating the wiki after every debate. They haven't disclosed. I'm already at a disadvantage. Putting me the burden on me to ask every opponent to disclose would exacerbate the disadvantage. 5 is turn asking for sites exclusive debaters at 8 don't know that many people on the circuit are where to find them or don't have a Facebook, which inherently requires people to have a Facebook to be able to find Colin with some random part of this huge hotel. B point is that don't have connection to many people. C point is that don't feel comfortable asking individuals for sites or talking to people. They know, which means you shouldn't vote on this argument. Even if he says that tricking people in disclosure theory and baiting disclosure, theory is a question of norm setting. Insofar as I've won that it's a good norm because he's conceded all the offense on the interpretation that proves it's a good norm, you should probably err heavily negative. Here's how the round breaks down. Theories drop the debater competing in terms of no RPI, which means that it's a no risk issue for me, which means you can negate on it, but even if you don't, you can vote negative on this turn on substance. You can't evaluate any of his arguments for why theory is incoherent because he's conceded that he doesn't get to weigh the case which takes out all those arguments. No new true error wing here. If you cannot judge your left line from the one year the true error, you should vote negative. Risk of offense means vote negative on theory. If you know, even if you don't do that, there's a conceded analytic turn on the case, which means you can vote negative on every layer. No after the true error.
Okay. I have one on 7. I'll start that time. Yeah. What was your responses to my absolute theory? Other than why I can't apply it to theory, what were your responses to my cross?
Yeah, so there's a transportation one like the first one. No you. Then second was.
What's the reason why no you?
It's because you want the ballot too.
Okay, just wanting the ballot.
Because it was like, oh, transportation wants it to be true.
So that's not what the argument is, but just go to the next one.
Okay, 2, your off links. The argument was on case.
What was the argument?
It was. Oh yeah, the offs also cycle within the political OTB. That's like the thesis of it. Third argument was obviously I don't read disclosure the other way, which means it's not a theoretical claim back and forth. I would disclose one way. Your other argument. This shifts your norm. It'll be the second time I beat Valley on this shell, and you've lost a disclosure and started disclosing, which means you should probably.
I'm not going to start open session.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So the order is going to be starting with my cross-absent theory, which I put on the first shell. It was kind of confusing where he was talking about it, but I'll be doing it on the first shell. So then those cross-apps, then the disclosure garbage, then the AC offense with that one analytic, and the rest of the app.
I'm good.
Okay. Is everybody ready? Okay, starting.
Now starts with line by line, he says transportational because I want the ballot. No, the argument is not that it's just interchangeable. Wanting the ballot is the argument that you want the ballot because you argue for some sort of norm in the base space there. Is it directly transportational because you're saying there's some sort of structural thing that you have done that is a reason for you why you get the ballot? No, I'm talking about a methodology for understanding the political. It's not talking about why I should get the ballot just for I was talking about a random esoteric garbage from the debate space, and then you say a link to it in the app because the app is a psychopolitical in debate space. No, that's not what the implication of the affirmative is. The implication of the affirmative is talking about the political that we live in right now. The empirical status political is post the advocacy, which means it's not about the debate space in the first place. Also, cycling within the debate space is what I say is good. I say that norm setting is a bad thing. I'll be getting that one next time. Latour 13, then he says that I don't even remember what the other argument was. It just was the same thing. It's bad. I'll go to Latour 5. Alright, Latour 13's cross out. Extend Latour 13 theory attempts to bring debate on a tangent debate is a political transformative space. It always has to have cycling ideas. Redeem interpretation is inherently bad because it's trying to set a norm. Norm setting is the problem with the problem with the interpretation. Setting norms is problematic because the conceded Latour 13 says that if we try to set an absolute norm that says we must always do this in certain debate space, that means that you are bringing the debate space up on a tangent and no longer politically transformative. That debates do not actually get deeper. It's just esoteric garbage about whether or not people have or have not disclosed. It's not a good norm that you're setting. There is no more deeper debate that you are arguing that there's a deeper debate. You're just saying the only other reason is why you could not cross apply this Latour 13 evidence is because he argues that he should not be able to cross apply arguments from the case to theory, but no, he only makes that on the disclosure interpretation shell. It doesn't give a reason as why I should apply to the to theory in general, but also this is just entirely circular. These arguments are indicting the ability to read theory in the first place and to try to force a set norms. He just says that you shouldn't because I'm reading theory on it, but the argument says that theory is bad. There's no demonstration of why it is uniquely the case that this argument is not bidirectional in the first place. Means that my application is necessarily must be respected, but also he can see that at best this means that his interpretation may be a direction for future shift in the base practicum, i.e. in the future maybe Valley should be doing open source, but that's not a reason to drop the affirmative strategy essentially is just a direction for future change, which means that the affirmative, which means that that's taking out the drop the debater implication of his interpretation, which means that because he not do any time extending drop the debater in order to extend fairness as a voter or education voter is probably the reason is why we cannot be voting for that. Even he also didn't give a reason as to why the independent voter of evidence sounds. The reason is why the drop the debater. There's no drop the debater implication, which means that at best you could never really show his arrogant theory as a voting issue in the first place. Then they've also conceded the Torah 5, which is that there is a social account interpretations claim to set norms, but they do not actually set norms because you read other different disclosure interpretations in other rounds. You are not always defending the same interpretation. You are always just shifting for the benefit of you and your round. Also, the gut check argument is pretty strong here. It is not that you have to find me and ask me. I literally asked you, and you told me to just do what I've already done in the past. You have conceded that is what happened, and that means that there is no abuse because Louis literally told you that you should ask for open source, and you just said no because you wanted to trick me into disclosure theory. Your random arguments about how it's a good norm do not matter. You're only analytic turn is a misunderstanding the affirmative. The affirmative is not saying that we have to result in more power in one person than the other, but no, it's just in making sure that we understand the power structures. That's the entirety of the app, and that explained in the Torah evidence, which means that the affirmative is only a project of making it so that we understand the political. That was all conceded the affirmative give the affirmative label on this of this extension because it was all conceded out of the affirmative. There, understanding the affirmative is simply wrong. The affirmative is not saying that we have to actually result in those shiftings. No, it's just saying that the benefit, the pedagogical benefit of understanding the political structure itself and knowing what gives it power is what's good.
Good bit. Because you want the RFD rate.
Yeah, just turn them off.
Okay.